Welcome to the Transformations Podcast. Here, guests and I will share our transformative experiences and will explore how to find excellence in life. Grandmaster Dan Medina, thanks so much for coming out to the Transformations Podcast.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure, man.
Thank you. So listen, you got a real interesting history, and people who just see you for, your teaching of Derobio or Majapai and whatever you're doing, but your resume is quite long in awards, recognitions, associations, and so forth, like more than most people, and that's not really out there. So,
Right.
I know when I read it, because we were working on your book, A Secret Art of Derobio Escrima, which the link will be in the podcast notes, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you learned Eskrima initially in the military, stationed in the Philippines. Is that where, or did you have some before you went?
I was stationed in
Was it Subic
in the Philippines, in 1978, and that was my first introduction. I learned in Baguio, and it was Arnis 63 Generals. The school was the Black Masters Sphinx Karate Clan of the Philippines. Big word, right? But they're still active, and I'm their representative here in the U.S. and I'm still in contact with them. I actually want to make a trip to the Philippines and bring back, they started me on the journey, and I want to bring back some of all this stuff that I've acquired to share,
Yeah. What did they? Back then systems weren't really being identified. It was just Arnis,
right,
or something like that. But did they, aside from the name of the club, did they identify a system?
Well, back then it was identified as Arnis 63 Generals.
Okay.
And and I only have a basic fundamental knowledge of that, because I was only there for so long, and then I left, and I started picking up other systems to enhance what I already knew. And the grandmasters over there, they've told me, come on down, and we'll teach you more. There's each general is a different system, so it's like a combination of 63 systems.
Wow.
And so I have a little bit. They said, come on down, and we'll keep showing you more.
Who were the names of the teachers or members of the group there, if you remember?
Okay. The person that taught me was Colonel Manny Deleon. He was a colonel in the Philippine PCs back then.
Okay.
And but the Grandmaster of the system is Grandmaster Jimmy Galez, which is
Jimmy Galez. Okay.
famous name in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And so now his son is his also, I believe, Jimmy Galez, the second or something like that, and he said, come on down, you come down, and we'll teach you, because you're needing a lot more, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just nice to know that all these lines of communications are open, and the friendships have not disintegrated.
Yeah. Martial arts is good that way. If you don't have a falling out with somebody, you end up being close with them no matter how many years pass. You can always just go back, and it's like you never lost contact.
Right. I don't get embroiled in the politics of it. I stay out of all the politics. For me, it's the martial arts. And all personal stuff that gets left behind, because it's all about learning and spreading the art,
Mm-hmm. When you left the Philippines, did you go back to the state? I mean, you also trained in Hawaii, so I'm trying to make a
Right.
connection between the time between the Philippines and your next stationing.
Okay. So from the Philippines, I went to San Diego,
Okay.
and uh, I started training under Narrie Babao,
Oh,
who was
nice.
the first full contact weapons champion of the U.S. And, I was his private student for almost 4 years. It was just one on one. It
Wow.
wasn't group classes. Every once in a while there was a group class, but most of the time it was one on one personal attention. You know, and so what I have, is it might not be the whole system, but what I have real well because he just drilled that into me. It was, you don't go to the next move until you have perfected this move. So it wasn't quantity, it was quality.
Yeah. That's the old way of teaching when you're not teaching to keep students paying tuition and get to the next belt. You're imparting the knowledge and the
Right, right.
skill. So there wasn't a need to go faster. It was basically train hard and get it right. When I remember one session when I was training privately with Angel Cabalist, we spent over an hour on one block for against one angle until I got it perfectly. Because on that one, my timing was off, and he kept going and kept feeding me the same angle
Yeah,
again and again and again and again until I got it.
yeah,
Same idea.
yeah. That's exactly how Grandmaster Narrie Babao was.
Hmm.
You're defending angle number one, and you're gonna do that until it's perfect. You're not gonna go to angle number two till angle number one is, you know, at his desired uh, perfection.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
total
from there,
different way of training. Because nowadays everybody wants more, more, and more. Where it's master what you need to master before you go to the next one. So instead of having a whole bunch of chop suey, you have perfection in your techniques. It's like when you say strike a number one, the number one's not here. The number's right there. Put it right there.
right?
And a lot of people, they strike, but they strike to miss. Right? You've encountered that before, right?
Oh, all the
And,
time. It's
and it's like,
annoying.
I don't
Or
need
it's
to
so
block
far in
them.
front of you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even go to block it because it's not going to hit you anyway. It's like
Right.
they're not even doing the strike right.
Yeah. So you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. So San Diego, and then with Nari.
Okay. So San Diego, I trained there, privately with Narrie Babao and my Sphinx teacher,
Oh,
Ricardo Mendoza. And so I was training with two teachers at the same time. They
that's
both knew each other, and they were okay with it.
and how did Mendoza come to the U.S.?
He
How
was
did
in
he
the
end up
Navy.
coming
He
to the
was in the
U.S.?
Navy.
Oh, he was also okay.
Yeah. So, I lucked out to have two mentors at the same time,
Yeah,
and they were friends, and so they just wanted the best for me, and that's what you want in your teachers, is teachers that want the best for their students, and so I spent my time between both of them, and I progressed tremendously under their guidance, and so when it came time to get transferred again, I transferred to Hawaii, and
yeah.
that's when you know I was told that Grandmaster Pedoy was retired, not teaching anymore, and but I still needed to go and see him and pay my respects. Right?
Hmm.
I was actually sent to train under Snookie Sanchez,
Yeah.
uh, who was a student of Villabrille, and well, when I got there, I called Grandmaster Pedoy. The airplane had just landed, and I was in my hotel room. We hadn't even unpacked yet, and I got through the yellow pages, found his phone number, called him, and he goes, "Oh, you're here. Come on down. I'll wait for you." And I told my wife, well, he wants us to come down. We haven't unpacked yet. That's okay. Let's just call a cab and go there, right? And of course, you're not going to show up empty-handed. You're going to go get a fruit basket or something, because that's etiquette. You gotta, bring a gift to show your appreciation to these masters for what they've accomplished. And so, we get there and we're talking, and I'm letting him know that, I really want to learn, Filipino martial arts and all of that, and, he taps me on the head, and all that, and he goes, "You know what? You really want to learn?" And I go, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "Well, if you want to learn, I'll teach you." He came out of retirement,
Wow.
and I wasn't expecting to learn from him. I was expecting to learn from Snookie Sanchez, but that's the stars, and that's history. I became his student, and and then I made a promise to him that I would never bring disgrace upon the name of Derobio or Pedoy, and I've kept my promise. I'm spreading the art.
Wow. And how long did you spend in Hawaii before coming back to the States?
4 years.
4 years. That's
Yeah,
nice. And you
and
train with him every week, probably multiple times?
yeah, I trained with him a couple of times a week, as much as I could. I was a skipper on a torpedo boat, between Hawaii and Kauai. And so when I wasn't in Honolulu,
Dan,
I'm back.
you're back.
we lost connection.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll just scooch back and start again with I was also a skipper on a torpedo
Yeah.
boat. Start with
So I
that
was
sentence.
also a skipper on a torpedo boat, between Hawaii and Kauai. And so I would train in Honolulu, and then I go to Kauai. I didn't have anybody to train there, so I did solo training in Kauai. And then, of course, I found out that, that's where Floro Villabrille lived. He lived in Kapa'a. A lot of people didn't know that. But hey, I was given his address, and I went and visited him, and actually had conversations, talked to him about his history and things like that. He actually prayed over me. He was a funny guy. He goes, "I'm going to show you a technique," and and he had me all cracking up and stuff. But he he had a guest book for people to sign when you went to visit. And so you know the so if people say, "Yeah, I went and saw him," but if you're not in that guest book, you didn't go see him. But he had everybody sign that guest book.
Wow.
But yeah, I got to train with him, and at that time they had an organization in Hawaii called the Hawaii Karate Congress,
Hmm.
which was made up of all the heads of all the karate schools in Hawaii and kung fu schools. And so, a lot of people wanted to join, but you couldn't just join because you wanted to. There was a panel that you had to talk to, and they interviewed you, and basically they grilled you on questions on your background and all of that. So you're just not going to let anybody in. They had Chuzo Kotaka, who was the All Japan Karate Champion at one time. Uh, Joe Bunch, who was he was at the time the president of the Hawaii Karate Congress, and he's the guy that actually sponsored me in. and he was a student of Shimabaku, one of the first black belts of Shimabaku, and of Sensei Odo of Okinawa. And so, Song Ao from the Kung Fu was there. So they all had to agree, yeah, let's let him in. And I actually got selected to become a member of the All Hawaii Karate Congress. And so I competed in the tournaments and stuff when I was in Hawaii, and I did the Eskrima forums in the open forums, I competed with the spear, the bankao, single stick, double stick, empty hand, because, the Filipino martial arts has empty hand, and, so I competed,
What year was this? The 1980s now? Or
yeah,
still the late 70s? I think it was probably the 80s by the time you
80s,
got to
yeah.
Hawaii.
So it was interesting, because at the time the president of the Hawaii Karate Congress asked me to teach him Eskrima, and so I started teaching him the Arnis Kuntaw which is basically Arnis Batangas that Narrie Babao taught me. I started teaching him that, not the Derobio, because I was learning the Derobio, and so I didn't have permission to teach it. So I was only teaching what I already knew, and the other stuff I was just keeping for myself.
So it's interesting that he would ask you and you're the newcomer to the group versus him asking one of the grandmasters in Hawaii for the training. It's like, he wanted to circumvent that or something, and
Yeah. And so, we practiced, he at nighttime he was a guard on the Arizona Memorial, and so we basically exchanged. I taught him Eskrima, and he taught me Japanese karate,
Nice.
And so imagine, we're doing Japanese karate on the Arizona Memorial. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All them soldiers are turning in their graves,
Yeah.
But I've had a very, very interesting career. You know who Bobby Lowe is?
I don't know him. Mm-mm.
He was the guy that opened up the first Kyokushin Kai school outside of Japan.
Oh.
And here I am. I'm shoulder to shoulder with all these old timers. And getting tidbits of knowledge. Whether it was verbal or seeing them in motion. And so the at that time the Filipino martial arts were still very secretive in Hawaii. This school didn't want that school to know that you were associating. And so a lot of times I would hold, like training, and I would want to videotape it. And they go, no, man, my teacher wouldn't want me to show this on video. And so they would show me stuff, but they didn't want it on video because they didn't want people to know that they showed it,
Right.
And
right.
so it was very secretive still in the 80s, all the way up to like the 90s, they still weren't sharing, It's like, but I was so close and so humble with everybody that, everybody wanted to give you a little something, and, but again, if you weren't humble, you would get humbled, So
Yeah.
it was that kind of, Greg Alland,
Oh yeah.
the fear no man on earth,
Yeah.
he came to Hawaii to do a seminar, to teach doce pares. But there's a different doce pares in Hawaii that's not
Right.
associated with the doce pares
Cebu.
in Cebu. And they use short sticks, doubles and stuff. And they came to the seminar, and they go, "That's not doce pares, man." They were ready to rumble, And I stepped in between them, and I said, "Come on, guys, we're in my house now, right? You know me, so let's just keep it on the low." And they, out of respect for me and Master Pedoy, they did not. They took the challenge back, But they were there to challenge him. So I mean, like I said, uh, uh, Filipino martial arts in Hawaii is no joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna take you to task.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Did you have any interest in martial arts as a kid, or boxing, or anything like that? Wrestling, uh,
You know,
kid or teenager?
in high school, in junior high school, I met. We had one of the kids in class was a kung fu guy, and you know the red bricks and stuff. He brought a red brick to school. Like the ones that they build buildings with, and here you have this 14-year-old kid, and bam, cuts right through that brick, and you go, oh man, I really want to learn that kind of stuff. And so in at 1973, I got my chance to start learning martial arts when I became part of the security force in Puerto Rico.
Mm.
And part of the training was you had to do combat judo.
Mm.
And so, you're going through this law enforcement training, and part of the training is you're getting on the mat and you're throwing each other around and doing throws, finding the sensitivity points to, get this guy off his feet, throwing him over your head, doing all this kind of stuff. And so that was my first introduction to martial arts. But the one thing that really set it off was the the Sphinx system. When Ricardo Mendoza introduced me to that, and it was just like you had to want it, because the when they put you in a horse stance and just leave you there, and they tell you if you get out of that horse stance, don't even think of coming back to learn. You're done.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a test of character and how much you want it. And you know today it would be physical abuse, right?
Right. Child abuse.
Because I couldn't walk for like a couple of days after that. But basically they just going, either he's gonna come back or he's not. If he wants it that bad, you know he'll go through the pain and do whatever it takes to learn. And that's what they're looking for. Are you
Mm-hmm.
willing to do whatever it takes to learn this martial art? And you didn't ask questions, you just did whatever they told you to do.
Wow.
But yeah, I've met so many teachers throughout my journey. It's just been incredible. It's like God just put him there, one in front of the next, for me to
Right.
meet. Uh, and I've had some really really also great students who were great martial arts instructors in their own right. That you can't take that away from them. Arlen Sanford, uh, Antoinette Chavez in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Melchor Chavez in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was the trainer of two WBC, WBA world boxing champions. He trained them to defend their titles.
Wow.
And he had world class Muay Thai fighters, and here he is, taking off his belt and becoming my students. And so there must be something to what I'm teaching if you have world class trainers,
Yeah.
willing to become your students from the beginning, and from and earn their instructorship. So, I think that what I was taught has a lot of value. It just takes somebody with uh, knowledge of combat to appreciate it.
Yeah. So it says something about you as an individual, because the grandmasters have plenty, lots of students over the decades, but only a few actually rise to the top and continue on the art, right? So it says a lot about you as a student, as a practitioner, and then as a teacher, that you were able to keep that line moving, and then when you got to the teacher role, you're able to attract other teachers in to learn with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're quite in demand for seminars. I see all the time you're teaching seminars.
Yeah, actually, I'm open, for seminars. People can contact me,
Hmm.
904-415-1733, and,
You got it. Yep.
you know, I'm always open for sharing and teaching. I get invited all the time to seminars. I just got invited again to teach at Grandmaster Bobby Tabuada's World Camp in
Hmm.
November. So I'll be there. I'll be sure to bring a whole bunch of books.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and look forward to doing more.
Yeah.
It's 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 a pleasure to teach.
It is. What do you think as a teacher? What have you learned over the years that have made your that has changed the way you teach and has evolved the teaching? Because you get that feedback loop from the student right away, you
Yeah.
know? So how have you evolved as a teacher over the years?
Uh, well, I've realized that I have nothing to prove, right? You don't have to go out there and hurt people to show that you know what you know, right? I just relax, go with the flow, and just show people this is how it's done. This is how I do it. See if it works for you, and and people are going, wow, it's like, I'll show a disarm and people will go, you know what? I knew that disarm, but I didn't know how to apply it,
Right.
right? And so they go, uh, uh, they'll go, wow, what an epiphany, Now I can apply that disarm because now I know how to get there, It's not a static, okay, I'm here and I can do this. I'm here, I can do that. No, how do I get there in real motion? And so and so people I open people's eyes, and of course, you know, like I said, there's nothing to prove. So don't hurt the students, Uh and I think that's a big deal, Uh it just have confidence in your knowledge, because when you don't have confidence, it shows, but because you start hurting people, I can give you pain, and I know when to stop, right? Whereas
Right.
you get people that give you pain, they don't know when to stop, and then they go a little overboard, and no, you don't need to go overboard. You don't need to break people to show them that you know what you know.
Hmm. Yeah. But when you're teaching the fundamental, a lot of Filipino martial art teachers don't have a progressive curriculum. They have an idea of how to teach the art, and they're going to show this kind of stuff first, and this type of stuff second, and this type of stuff third. But a lot of improvisation in class, I find.
Yeah.
When you're teaching, do you have a it sounds like you probably do, a curriculum to teach where there's a fundamentals training part before you get to the next piece? Because like you said, you got to, Narrie Babao said, do it or you're not moving forward, you know
Yeah.
uh so I'm sure
Well,
that carried over.
yeah. Well, I just did a seminar at MKG, Rick Faye School.
Okay.
And, I had a lot of instructors. They came from all over. And basically, you know, my progression was, okay, almost everybody has strikes 1 through 5. They're pretty much basic, And so I started off with that, okay? Angle number 1, angle number 2, but with my footwork, right? Because a lot of people, they just stay in lead foot forward and they do all the strikes just from the lead foot forward. Whereas I have my shifting footwork. So I taught them the footwork. And then we're going to learn how to pass that number 1, right? And so I'll teach them how to do the pass, right? We're not going to go to number 2 till they've actually learned how to pass the number 1, And we'll go slow, and then we'll pick it up, and we'll pick it up, and pick it up, and pick up the pace on that number 1. And I said, okay, now you got the number 1. Let's go to number 2, right? And we'll work the 2, all right? So you're passing that number 2 over your head, right? You're passing it. You're passing it, right? And so we get them through all the strikes, and okay, now we're going to do them all in a row. And then once I can see that you can do them all, okay, now I'm going to teach you the next move, right? So I might teach you a counter following that pass, right? Okay, all right, good. Now you can do that counter and the checks, right? Because a lot of people don't know how to check, right? And pass and check, right? And make sure that they're using that checking hand because that's your safety, right? And once they get that, okay, you have your pass, your check, and your counters. Okay, pass, check, disarm, and counter, right? So I build up on it, and then, okay, now your checking hand is going to be your trapping hand, right? And so I build up on that. Okay, so now you have your trap, right? Pass, check, snake, right? Pass, check, wrist lock, right? But you have the progression. So I build on that, right? So that you're just not doing this and then that and then different stuff all over the place, and there's no nothing to keep it together, right?
Right.
And so I have them work all that. I go, okay, now you got the pass, the check, the snake, and now you're going to hit them because you got them locked. Okay. Now we're going to add the counter lock to that, right? And so you can work all of that, right? And so, so I do have a progression on, and it's getting better. The more you do it, the better you get. It's like it's I don't have to have it written down. It's just it's there. It's like a lot of people have to rehearse to do a demonstration, right? And basically, I say, if you need to rehearse, you don't know it.
Yeah, totally.
Somebody should be able to say, hey, do a demo. And I should go, you and you come over here and attack. And I should be able to do it,
Right.
And I shouldn't have to think on something that I should already know, right? If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't, right? And so we need to be the guys that just know it and can just, my motto is just do it, like the Nike
Just
commercial.
Yeah. Well, that shows the difference between somebody who, like in music, somebody who can play by reading the notes and someone who can just play,
There you
and it's
go.
like somebody who can improvise. I mean, it's one thing to have to remember and rehearse. That's like this level. And the next level is like, okay, I memorized the counters and the defenses. I can do that at a demo. But that's not good enough because you don't always have your students with you or your partner. And somebody says, hey, come out and show us something. You got to be able to have someone from any style or no style just come out and knife or stick or punch, and you do your art.
Right.
And it's all improvisation because it's inside your body, right?
Yeah.
You've infused it into your cells and muscle memory, and you should be able to on the spot
Yeah.
do a demo and on the spot teach a seminar and create 300 new combinations off the top of your head.
There we go. We're back.
Nice. Yeah. So, when you truly have mastered Eskrima or any martial art, it's like it's part of who you are. It's in your cells. It's in your spirit. It's in your muscle memory that you could demo anytime. You can self-defense anytime.
Right.
And you could come up with techniques against any situation just because it's all in you. You don't have to think and prepare it.
Yeah. I have a funny story. I was at Pambuan's yearly seminar camp,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sama, right?
and I was asked to do a demonstration, and so I said okay, and I asked this one guy. I said, "Hey, can you film this while I do the demo?" And so, I had a couple of students there, but they weren't enough. So I pointed to a couple of people that were sitting down, and I said, "How about you, and then you, and then this other guy, right?" And so it would make more people. And then I said, "Okay, all of you can attack me at the same time, and I'll just defend." And so don't wait for your turn. If you see an opening, just run after me and attack me. And so I said, "Okay, all of you attack me now." And so they're all running at me, and I'm passing and doing my counters and stuff. And and I defended against everybody there. And this is rapid pace. They could strike any angle, any number they wanted, and it was my job not to get hit. And I'm doing my counters, and I'm coming like that close with my strikes, right? But I have control. I know that I don't have to hit you because we're doing a demo, right? And so they're all coming after me. They're running, and later asked the guy to see the video, and all you see is blank space because he was so enthralled with watching what was going on that he didn't tape anything. I mean, he got a little bit of it when he finally found out. He's like watching. Oh,
Yeah.
But yeah, I done stuff like that. Same thing. I did one in the rain for at Katipunan in Florida. For Bayet, and this was in the rain. And again, I chose people out of the crowd, and I said, "Okay, go ahead and attack," and again, I get a standing ovation, because these guys are just running after me and I'm just defending,
Right.
But yeah, you don't have to think about it. It's ingrained, it,
Mm-hmm.
So, I train differently,
It takes a lot of training to get there. I know, you have to really be patient early on in your training to set up a mental attitude of solo training and partner training and repetition. I find that a lot of students like to just gravitate toward stuff they're good at and repeat it, and don't put enough time into the stuff they're not yet good at, not realizing that 10 years from then they're going to have a deficiency that they're going to need to catch up if they want to really level out the practice and their skill level. When you were training under different teachers, right? You were saying like in San Diego and so forth. And then when you moved to Hawaii with Grandmaster Pedoy, did you find it difficult not having the other styles blend in while you were, just because your body postures were there and the movement rhythms were there? So when Grandmaster Pedoy is teaching you a certain thing, that it took a while to move the other things aside to learn a new way.
I've always been the kind of person that I just put stuff to the side and then just start learning what's taught to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started learning Derobio, and I'm going, holy cow, this is really, really simple, right? And it wasn't flowery and stuff like some of the other stuff I was doing. It was just simple and direct and I really didn't think much of it at the time when I was learning it. It's as I got older and things started clicking, and I'm going, wow, simplicity is where it's at, right?
Yeah.
And so when I look at the way I move and I go, wow, you know, uh, a lot of my moves might look like Kali's Illustrissimo, right?
Right.
Because I'm just not there, right? And I go, wow, there's a lot of similarities within the older arts, you know, and so it's just when you see an art that was designed, like Derobio was designed for the blade, it's a bladed art. Then you kind of see where other bladed arts are. Oh yeah, that's a bladed art, you know. But when you see an art that is bringing their stick from under their armpit, you go, nope, that's not a bladed art.
Well, it's a good way to fillet yourself and bleed out. Yeah.
Right. And so you get to see, appreciate, and you get to appreciate what other people are doing, and you go, wow, there's a lot of similarities in what we're doing. It's just a little bit here or a little bit there, but it's almost identical in the movement. You're moving very little, but getting a lot accomplished.
Yeah. Well, that's really the mark of mastery over a masterful system is get the most effect with the least effort, right? The least amount of moving, the
That's
least amount
it.
of
Yeah.
time, right? The least complex, like just hit, you know. In my class, we have a slogan. A recta is just a direct downward strike, and our
Oh yeah.
slogan is, "I just want to recta your face." Instead of wreck your face, recta your face, right?
Yeah.
The plot is just
Yeah.
going to hit the guy
Yeah.
directly. So Filipinos, a lot of people think all of Filipino martial arts is bladed. Oh, the stick just represents the blade, but you and I know better than that. There's so many. There's stick fighting in the Philippines. There's sword and dagger, and there's stick and dagger, where the
Right.
stick, right. And a lot of people just make believe and espouse that it's all the same. Like, this is a bladed movement with the stick. Or like, just get a training blade and you'll see it's not. And then they grab the stick to disarm. You're like, dude, you just cut your fingers off grabbing the sword. That's a pet peeve that like gets under my skin, and I shouldn't let it, because it's ignorance, right? And you want to
Right.
correct people, but their ego
Right.
is so, this is a bladed art. It's not.
No, you could tell by the way they're holding the stick, the way they're striking.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing, an abanico this
That's
way,
the flat end,
you're hitting with the flat of the blade,
right?
right? If you're gonna abanico,
It's got to be
you
knuckles.
gotta turn the
Yeah,
blade towards the,
right.
so little things like that, right? You
Checking the
know,
stick, grabbing the stick. You can't do that with a blade. You
no,
know.
you have to be really good at getting here.
Yes.
Grabbing
The
that's where you
thumb.
grab.
Yeah.
You don't grab up here because then they do elbow tricks. Right? Either you check behind here
Yeah.
and you grab the thumb. Your hand comes in and slides all the way down as you're doing your check, and you're grabbing that thumb. Once you have that thumb, you could do a lot of different things.
Right.
You know, but if you don't train that way, you're not going to, you know, basically get good at disarming. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I do disarms, people go, "Wow, I didn't even see that happen," right? And that's the key is you're not supposed to see it happen.
That's right.
You're not even supposed to feel it. you know. So if you felt it, there was something wrong. When you strike and I go, shoo, and that should be it. You know, the minute I touch your stick should be gone, right? That's when you know that you know your disarms. They didn't feel it happen. They weren't able to tighten up. They just go, I struck and my stick flew. You know, that's when you know that, hey, your disarms are getting better.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of practitioners that say disarms aren't realistic. You can't get a disarm for real. They're just not they're not training it properly.
Yeah.
You know, disarms you can get as long as you train them like you train your counters and your power. And
Yeah.
it's a real skill about timing, positioning, leverage, right? Anatomy of the wrist,
Yeah.
of the thumb, the elbow. And if you
Right.
can master that, you can get disarms all throughout,
Yeah.
all kinds of
Well,
disarms.
one of my friends, who's also a master of Derobio, went to Portugal to compete in the GSPA or GSP. I can't remember the full letter combination. World Stick Fighting Championship, and he had me come down to work with him on disarms. He goes, I want to get at least one disarm in
Nice.
the GSBA, yeah, World Stick Fighting Championship in Portugal, and he did. He got a disarm while fighting full contact, and he actually won the GSBA World Championship.
That's awesome.
So, and he got the disarm, because he worked it. He
Yeah.
wanted to get one in, and he got it.
Yeah.
And I also have Arlen Sanford has been able to, get disarms in full contact stick fighting. The Kajikembo organization, back when I was teaching Arlen, had their first full contact stick fighting championship, and they, uh, I had two people compete in it. Arlen Sanford and W.H.F.S. They took first and second,
Wow.
and that's because they didn't want to fight each other. They flipped the coin for it.
Yeah.
But they destroyed them so bad that they did away with the full contact stick fighting in that part of the tournament for the next few years.
Wow.
Because now I have it on tape. It was a terrible, terrible, disarmed, and they couldn't even deal with any of it. And Arlen Sanford's a big guy, and part of the Dog Brothers. He's a founding member, and even Mark Denny going, "Yep, I've been caught with a couple of those combinations from Derobio," and so no, it's no joke. It's being used.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just proper training is the whole thing. I mean, if you just learn them static, like you're saying, a guy strikes and stays there and you do your counter or your disarm, that's not going to get you the skill to
No,
apply it in real time.
no, that's beginners.
Right. That's
That's
the
A,
template.
B, C.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh, goodness. So many different Filipino martial arts don't train the same things, right? So some styles are just double stick, some are just single stick, some are single stick, double stick, but no dagger. Some don't have empty hand. They're all a little different. What was the components of Derobio that Grandmaster Pedoy taught you?
Well, it was we concentrated a lot on single stick and let's see, single stick, and we did have some double stick stuff that we did, and I spent some time dissecting it and looking at, okay, how can this be applied empty hand, because I already had empty hand movements from other Filipino martial arts,
Right.
and so it's delving deeper into the art, because it's there. You just got to see it, and a lot of people don't take the time to dissect the art. they just see it for its surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, this is all we do. No, there's a lot hidden in there. You just got to look for it, you know. And so I go, wow, I can do this empty-handed, you know. And so yeah, you know, if you got me in a wrist lock, then I can counter that, you know. You know, you have
Mm-hmm.
me in this wrist lock, yes, I can counter that because you know, if you can do it with a stick, you can do it without a stick,
Right.
you know. And so it's just, you know, it's taken my total knowledge from all the arts to take and learn what's in there, right? You know, each art enhances your knowledge and understanding of the movements of all the other arts you've learned, you know? And so you don't throw things away. You just see how do they work? You know, how do things work? What makes it work? You know, it's just a technique's not going to work just because you're going to will it to work. You got to understand what makes it work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, a lot of people go, that doesn't work for me. I can't do it. And I
Got to
go,
practice.
well, you got to practice. You know, uh, you have to learn how to understand it. You know, it's like, you know, a lot of people will go for a wrist lock and they go, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. Well, at the angle that you're doing it, no, it's not going to work. You got to know the proper angle, you know?
Yeah.
And if you don't understand angles, you're not going to make things work. It's all based on the angles. He who
Mm-hmm.
knows the angles best is going to come out on top.
Yeah. But Grandmaster Pedoy, even though you were doing a lot of single stick, there was blade, you know, blade
Yeah, well,
orientation.
we did blade work and we did demonstrations in public. Yeah, not only did we do blade work, we did blade work with sharpened blades, right? Because sharp blades make sparks,
Yeah.
all right? Dull blades is just, and so we did a demonstration at the Neil Blaisdell Arena with Dan Inosanto. Uh, I mean, this was a big FMA deal, uh, and and I should have a tape of that. And I mean, when those guys went out there with blades, and we're talking fast, bing, 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 and you see a little piece of wood fly off one of the handles. I mean, that's how close that
Somebody,
nobody got cut, but we say our prayers, before doing the
someone's like
demos.
this, missing a fingernail. That wasn't the handle. That
Yeah,
was a thumb.
right.
Yeah.
We always say our prayers before doing the demos, and but yeah, I mean, the sparks were flying, and I mean, the whole Neil Blaisdell Arena erupted into whistles and clapping and just, it was, you know, but yeah, we did use sharpened bolos, when we trained,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little different, than other schools, uh, you know, we always did our demos with blades,
Mm.
just so that people would understand, what we're doing, why the movements are as simple as they are, right? Because you have a matter separator, right?
Right. A matter
Yeah,
separator. I like it. Matter separator.
yeah. I stole that from Graham Franks.
Okay. Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Matter separator.
yeah. But yeah, when you have a blade, you know, you're not going to be going into all these fancy moves. You have the blade. If I cut your hand and I just come here and here, it's over. It's just it's you just have to know the difference between, okay, I have a stick, I got to hit you a few more times. I have a blade, I don't have to do as much.
You could just cut the hand and a finger falls off. It may stop
It's
the whole
over.
thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that drives me nuts when I watch FMA teachers teaching blade, and they're doing all this stuff and moving around. It's like you lost the plot. The plot is he's going to kill you. If you got your blade and he's got a blade, you just finish him and finish, and that should be, get to the point.
Yeah, so it's to the point, But again, when you're teaching people to kill people,
right.
Are you willing to take the responsibility for that?
Yeah.
Right. So
teach them the sticks with the multiple hits instead. Nothing on your conscience when your psychopathic student goes crazy,
Yeah.
So one of the things that you're best known for, and that you have a very unique skill in, is counter disarming. And I don't see the techniques that you've showed me, down at Sam Boet's thing in Arizona a few years back. And I got to feel them, not just see them on the video. They're quite painful. And it's they look complicated, but you get into them very easily. So you're well trained at it. Talk a little bit about that sub skill of counterlocking, and how is it that only it comes from Master Pedoy, or from you and him, or however it developed?
Well, the counterlocks were passed down from Faustino Ablin, who was a leader of the Pulahan movement in the Philippines, in Leyte, to Master Pedoy, to me, right? So unbroken, straight, passed on. And the counterlocks, when you're first introduced to them, they seem complicated, but actually they're only complicated in their simplicity. Right? They're so simple that you can't comprehend it. Right. And that's what it is. It's not that it's a complicated move. The movements, when you really break it down, I go, wow, that's really a simple move. It's like he's going to strike you and you're going, I don't want to get hit. You pass it over, you bring your elbow over, and you're locked, right? And so it's just, again, understanding movements. It's like trees. They have a lot of branches, right? You have to know all the branches, and again, Master Pedoy would say, move like a reed in the wind, which means you're not going to get stiff, try to stop it. You're going to just get out of the way, and come in, and so, it's you're actually very soft, in your entries. And so people don't feel that, they can feel the hard blocks and stuff, but when people strike and you're not there, or you're passing their strike, and then that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for that, well, he's going to stop it, and then I'm going to do my stuff. But all of a sudden, it wasn't stopped. It was guided around, and now you're off position, and you don't know what to do next. And so, and that's where a lot of the stuff that we do comes into play, because it's just putting you off position. It's a game of chess. Who knows the game better? And but again, the locks, they are simple. It's just, if you don't have somebody in front of you explaining it, you're not going to pick it up off a video.
No,
you can watch all my videos and you'll go, how did he get there? It was too quick, but in reality, you're not even thinking about it. It should just be there. If you have to think about it, it's too late, right? It's got to be your subconscious taking over. There should be no thought involved. It should just be performance. Can you do it, or you can't do it? And so you try to work to the point where you're not thinking, you're just doing.
Right.
It's a higher level of martial arts, because there's no thought process, right? it's all ingrained. It's and again, how does that happen? You just got to work it. Without the work, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Because, and what I'll do for the listeners and viewers, I'll put a link in the show notes under with to the videos of you demonstrating and some of the things that we've been talking about, especially the counter disarms and other demos that you have. And all of your contact information will be there as well.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
a link for your book, The Secret Art
Yeah.
of Derobio Escrima.
Well,
And
let's add something to that.
let's do
Okay.
it.
Because of the tragedy in Hawaii.
Yes.
Okay. For everybody that orders the book from now to December, all the proceeds can go to the victims in Hawaii.
You got it. I'll be there with you.
Yeah. So, it's get the book and get something out of it and help the people in Hawaii at the same time. I don't want any money from it. Everything can just go straight to Hawaii,
Okay.
So order the book and do something good for somebody else, and also do something good for yourself.
Yeah.
By learning more about the history of the Art of Derobio Escrima that comes from Leyte, which there's a lot of Filipino martial arts that come from all the different islands, but this one focuses on the island of Leyte and the rebels there and stuff, and so you're going to learn about the history that this really happened. It's real history, it's real people. And it's documented. General Faustino Ablin was wanted and had a price on his head by the U.S. government. And that's all part of history. And so learn about the history of the Philippines, learn a little bit about Derobio, and help the people in Hawaii, where all the proceeds will go to that.
That sounds terrific. Tambuli Media will put its proceeds there with yours, and we'll put all that minus the printing and the shipping.
Yeah, awesome.
That. I'll set up a page for it on Tambuli Media, and we'll do it as a fundraiser for Hawaii.
Great.
Yeah. We'll make it official. And there's what do you think is in the future for you? Oh, before we get to that, I forgot to ask. Your organization, you have Majapai, right?
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about what that is.
Okay. So, you have Derobio Escrima, but you also know that I have studied all these other martial arts, right? So, I've studied Kuntaw. I've gotten to work with a lot of notable martial arts grandmasters, Dionisio Cañete, Richard Bustillo, Dan Inosanto. Yes, it's I even done Serrata, and so the amount of knowledge that's in here is really, really vast. We're talking 50 years of Filipino martial arts, not just all these other martial arts, but 50 years of solid Filipino martial arts. Even my karate came from the Philippines, and then, I have some other arts that didn't come from the Philippines, but, combining all that into one, I didn't want to leave any of my teachers out, but you can't go this art, this art, this art, and this art. So Majapai is a culmination of all the Filipino and Southeast Asian martial arts that I've learned. And Ma in Chinese means Medina, right? Ma Japai, Medina's family system.
Nice.
And so, but it has a dual meaning. Ma also stands for horse.
And you got a horse on your logo.
Horse family system, right?
Yeah.
Majapai, right? Derobio, rhythm of the horse. So it all kind of
Nice.
comes in together into one system without leaving anybody out, And so when I'm teaching, I let people know, okay, this came from Grandmaster Narrie Babao. This came from Punong Guru Ricardo Mendoza. This came from uh, Shihan Ray Barrera, or this came from, and so, you give acknowledgments to your teachers because, without their knowledge, I wouldn't be here speaking to you now about my knowledge, right? Because, all this stuff comes in, and it's up to you to keep it alive and keep the memories alive of all these people that came before you, right? Because you got to honor the people that came before you, right? It's part of history. You can't wipe that out, otherwise you don't have a history.
Right. Right.
And so Majapai,
So
horse
people
family
can
system.
come to you and learn Derobio, but they can also come to you and learn another from a vast repertoire of martial arts, things that are outside the limit of Derobio.
Right.
So that's really a good way of doing it. Yeah, rather than just blend it all and lose your commitment to Master Pedoy. You can keep that, but also have everything else that you've done.
Yeah.
That's
So,
part of it.
if they want to learn, what I learned from Arnis 63 Generals, I could show from that.
Yeah.
I can show from the Ocho system, or I can show from the Batangas system, or, any little pieces that I have that I think are very interesting that will enhance what you're doing, from all these other systems that I've been exposed to, right? And so it's just not just Derobio. A lot of times people might say, well, actually, it was Richard Bustillo. I put on a summer camp and had Richard Bustillo and a whole bunch of other notable instructors come to my camp. Gold medalists in Sambo and things like that, And it came for me to do a demonstration, and and I'm having all these people attack me, and I'm defending, disarming, and all of that. And Richard Bustillo goes, you know what? I've seen Derobio before, but what you've done is create a different new animal. That came from Richard Bustillo.
Nice.
And so, it was still Derobio. I'm just putting the
Medina flavor on it.
Yeah. I had a little salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper. A little cayenne.
Right? But no, what I did,
right.
Hey, it's not going to be static. Just attack, and then I'm just going to do my stuff, and don't get hit.
Don't get hit.
That's the only thing wrong. The only mistake that you can make is getting hit,
Especially with one of these matter separating devices. That's funny. I have to message Bram now and say I learned his secret saying. I'm in the club.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for you? Where do you see the next 5 or so years, or where do you want to see yourself going?
Well, I just spoke with my wife, and I told her that I wanted to go back to the Philippines.
Nice.
And bring back, because the Art of Derobio Escrima left Hawaii with Master Pedoy.
Right.
He was the last master of the system. So the system is not in the Philippines anymore.
Yeah.
And so, I want to bring back, that part of the culture back to the Philippines, So I'm going to be working on making a trip to the Philippines here in the near future. I was already, my wife saying, hurry up and get your passport and all this, and so And I am getting older. I'm only a couple of months away from being 70.
70. You
Yeah,
look really good. I mean, you look fit. Your color is good. Like you look healthy, and you certainly move like a young man.
yeah. Well, you know,
70. Wow. I
th-
wouldn't have. I was thinking early 60s. I wouldn't have put you in 70, Dan.
yeah,
Very good.
yeah. So big 70.
So it's time to get back over there and retransplant the art back. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And I think that it's a cultural treasure.
yeah.
You know, and it has to find its way back to the Philippines. Not all the grandmasters are Filipino. You know, and I have an art that originated in the Philippines, left the Philippines, and I want to bring it back. You
Yeah.
know.
So before we close out this um, edition of our podcast, are there any things you'd like to let people know about that you're doing that's upcoming, that are in the works, that so when they get in touch with you, they'll have some extra reasons for getting in touch?
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm going to be teaching a small portion at uh, Grandmaster Bobby Tawada's birthday camp or his world camp in November. If you can make it, show up.
Where
It's
is
it's
that
a
going to be held?
wonderful venue. There's going to be two masters of Calice Lustrissimo there,
Nice.
Vico, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name. I'm sorry, but he's coming from the Philippines to be there for this.
Wonderful.
And so it's on Bobby Tabuada's page.
Okay.
So
I'll
if
put
you'll
that in
check
the show
that,
notes.
and then you know, if you want any seminars in Derobio Escrima, get a hold of me. I have some dates that are open, and if you want to do something for next year, let me know in advance because I plan my vacations a whole year in advance. And so, if you want to be in that plan, get a hold of me so I can put you in it.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and
people can
again,
reach out to you for lessons on Zoom too if they can't make it to see you. Or
actually,
no.
uh, uh, I don't have the time to do the Zoom.
Okay.
I do teach. I do have some videos that you can see that are at the Rajah Academy in uh, Greenville, South Carolina. Rajah Academy, and it's a instructional video. It goes and it covers everything that's in the book.
Wait. You
So,
mean this book?
so the video was made to follow the book, uh,
Wonderful.
and so if you have the book and you're having problems understanding the photos, well, it has the chapters in the video so that you can follow the book
Wonderful.
and learn that way. And so that's available. And and of course, you can come and visit anytime to Greenville, South Carolina, and learn on the weekends. And I have people that are traveling. I have one guy travels from Florida once a month.
Wow.
I have another guy travels from Connecticut once every 2 months. And so I have people coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico, to come up here and train. And so again, I'd rather be hands on.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm teaching, you know, I think that you'll understand it better than just watching me on video because you can watch me on video, but you're not going to get the little nuances. Where do you really need to be? You'll get an idea, but the idea is not as good as being in front of me and and actually having me strike at you, at first, I'm a little bit at a time, and then next thing you know, you're having to strike or block full power blows, and see how simple it is to block a full power blow, But unless somebody's striking at you full power, you're not going to really, understand, what it's like to be behind that blow, and how to, really not get hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd rather teach in person. To me, that there's nothing like crossing hands.
Yes.
That's where the how well somebody else knows what they're doing. You got to cross hands.